Hi, this is Patrick Ryan from the Alaska Botanical Garden. I'm your education and outreach specialist here at the garden, and I thought we'd talk a little bit today on Boreal Bites about some of the varieties of Christmas trees available in Alaska and probably in your area too. Some of these can be found as native species here in Alaska, and we'll talk about that. But look at the first one here. We have the Fraser fir. Really nice one. You can see it's kind of a really silvery kind of underneath the leaves, really short needles on this. We'll say leaves or needles. Of course, they are leaves. We do call them needles. It's not as pokey as a spruce. Fir needles are very, very flat, and we'll have a trick to help you remember that. So kind of silvery, really shorter needles there, and pretty attractive tree, very, very common. Most of these are firs. They're ABs in the genus, so ABs fraseri here. And we'll go on to the grand fir over here. And this one, very, very flat, wide needles here. Again, the needles spread out, not as curved as the Fraser, very, very flat. Almost looks like a U. Very, very dark green though, very soft. A little bit more open, a little softer in form. Fraser holds up a little bit better, I think, to bigger ornaments and things. But very attractive tree, beautiful dark needles on there. So AB's grandis, the grand fir. Go on to the noble fir, my personal favorite. AB's procera, and beautiful dark green, again, very flat needles on the fir needles themselves. There's dispersed around the branches a little bit more. Just a great tree. That's one of the Ryan family classics right there. It's one of our favorites. And a new one that's been on the market just in Alaska for a few years, but very popular in Europe, is the Nordmann fir, AB's Nordmanniana. And you can see very, very dark green, very large needles, and curving upward. Has a nice open spacing, very favored in Europe, and where apparently even candles are still used on trees, but there's a lot of space between the branches, and it'll take some heavy, large ornaments too. So those are some of the more common species of firs that you'll see for Christmas trees. We have some other greenery too. I brought in from one of the local nurseries. So we have some juniper here. Used in swags and garlands and wreaths, and this one has the juniper berries, which, of course, you may know are used to flavor gin. So, kind of interesting plant, kind of scale-like leaves, and also the cedar, beautiful in swags and garlands, and beautiful flat leaves on this one. Very, very attractive, very, very nice. And one I brought just to show the difference. Here's a pine. And pine needles always come in twos, and this is one that blew down at my house a couple years ago in 90-mile-an-hour winds, and we are still pining for him. Sorry, I had to say that. And beautiful trees, common in Anchorage, getting to be a little bit favored by the moose, but still nice to have. And here's a piece of a white spruce, very, very pokey. We'll talk about that in just a second. The leaves, again, wrapped around the stem on this one. Now, as far as getting Christmas trees in the Anchorage area yourself or other places in Alaska, you can gather them. Let's look real quick here, Kelly, if you can zoom in on this. Here's how to remember some of these. The fir has very flat needles, so if you see them even in the wild, as you may, check the needles are very, very flat. Spruce, remember, these both start with S, has very short needles and very pokey. The pine, always the needles are in twos. They may be up to 6 inches long, some varieties, but always in twos. Cedar, very scale-like leaves, and juniper, very scientific word here, pokey. Pokey little guys there. Some of these trees can be found in your guide to Alaska trees and some other materials through the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Forest Service. Very, very handy books with keys and all kinds of guides for those. Also a nice guide from the Arbor Day Foundation. What tree is that? Covers some of the 500 to 700 species found in the States. So very, very handy book. Now, if you're out like Kelly did, and you're looking for a Christmas tree, you can go out around the Anchorage area, and a lot of areas around Alaska. It's U.S. Forest Service land, and you can go to www.fs for Forest Service, USDA for U.S. Department of Ag, and .gov, and find out where you can cut those. Now, make sure you're on land managed by the Forest Service. Cut trees at least 150 yards from the main roads and picnics and campground areas. And do not fell trees into streams or other bodies of water. Cut them as close to the ground as possible, and don't top off the top part higher than 20 feet in order to get the good parts. Some of the trees that you'll find in Alaska, mostly commonly, you're going to find the white spruce, Picea glauca, and the black spruce Picea mariana, which really is your Charlie Brown Christmas tree, but what's a better Alaskan tree than that? So both those very available. Now for kids, through the Junior Master Gardener program, this is one of the lessons where we compare firs and pines and spruces, so we have a great lesson about that. And that's enjoyable. Another great book, Fir Trees. You can find books just on about almost any topic. And this one even goes into the arrangement of the leaves, so you can get very, very specific on how each needle looks and how they're arranged on the twigs. And I also wanted to mention a favorite book of mine I don't have at the Horticultural Work Center here, but Plants of Christmas by Hal Borland. And a beautiful book, just adding to the fun of the holidays and see some of these traditions on some of these plants. And the last thing, let's look at a tree cookie real quick. These are cut off the bottom of the Christmas trees locally to like the stem of a flower to allow the water to come up when it's in the tree stand. And I counted this one, I got about 9 rings on this. I don't know if you could see those. But most Christmas trees I found might be 7 to 11, 12 years old and then harvested. And a lot of these are cored also, so water can go up and nourish the tree a little bit longer. So you might keep a humidifier around the house and keep that tree live a little bit longer. So there you have it. So whatever your traditions are, we wish you the best of the holiday season from everyone at the Alaska Botanical Garden. We are open daylight hours year-round, and after solstice we're gaining 9 seconds a day and a little bit more. So we'll be here at the garden. Find us at www.alaskabg.org.